Yes.
Okay.
Good morning at this time, Lars.
Yeah, good morning.
It's very great to have you in our interview. And I'm here with Heidi. Heidi's already told you, but Heidi's from the Netherlands. I'm living in Belgium. And how are you, Lars?
I'm very, very good. Very good. I've just finished a new book, and so this is always when you have done going through the motions, writing. It's always afterwards. It's a funny feeling because you are being so absorbed in this work and you are being so much into it that suddenly, oh, you have to let it go. So it's at the editors at the moment. So I'm getting it back next week sometime, and yeah, it's it's the same thing because when you are writing, you are always working and you're always free because you can always rise up and walk away, but it's always processing in your whole being. So yeah.
Okay. Did you have a new inspiration to write this book?
It's always, for me, it's always, writing is always done very fast, actually. But the books are, I'm carrying the books within me, and I'm processing it through a whole year or something. And the moment I decide to sit down and write it, it comes very, I have processed it. It's like, if you are pregnant and after 9 months, you must do it, or else it's no good, So yeah, that's how it is.
Oh, great. Yeah, we know each other now, I think, for several years. And like the first time in Copenhagen, I was invited to see the seer, but it was in Danish. And it was at the sold out theater, and the beautiful the seer, but it was all in Danish, and I fell asleep. Yeah, it was more, I couldn't understand some things, but later it was also in English. Beautiful. You can feel the heart. But can you tell me of us a bit about yourself?
Oh, it's always hard to tell something about yourself. Yeah, what do you mean? I've been a musician since I was very young, and since I was a teenager, I have been very much into spirituality. And I was born in 1950, so I'm 70 years now. So it's a whole lifetime of spirituality and music and healing. And somehow it was in 1998, I became ill, and that way I met my teacher this year. So, and it was through him that I was healed, and everything to that point. I have read a lot of books. I have read all the spiritual books that you can think of. So, but I have not really practiced. Not really, There was a lot of things that were very strange to me. For example, praying. What was praying? I read a lot about it, but I could not really get myself around it, But when I met the seer, he was a practical man. He had almost not read anything, but he had done a lot of practice. So it was a very good match for me to meet this man. And through him, I learned how to be more present and to cut away all what we call the bullshit, and go straight. He was a very, very practical man. And every day people phoned him from all over the world. And from 8 to 9, he was helping people, and he could diagnose them over the telephone and also heal them on distant healing. And it was a huge revelation for me to sit beside him for many, many years. I sat there every morning, and we worked together in Montségur in France. southern France in the Pyrenees, but he was living in southern Spain, in Fuengirola, in Andalusia. So I also spent a lot of time there, and that went on for 7 years. And within those 7 years, I also wrote my main work that is today called the O manuscripts, which consist of 3 books: the Seer, the Magdalene, and the Grail. Yes, this is the original book from that. So that's about it. And since that, I have been working as a healer, I do a lot of talks and workshops all over the world. And yeah, that's the main thing of what I'm doing. And then, of course, I'm writing my books.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, as a musician, you were also in Holland, and you met Herman Brood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For many years, I was a musician. You know, when I did not go to school really when I was a kid because of certain circumstances, I was not able to. And that meant that I did not know what to do with myself when school was over. I left school after 8th grade. So I was musical, so I became part of a band in the 60s. And we started to tour. And at one point we were in Volkspark or in Amsterdam.
Vondelpark, maybe?
Yeah, Vondelpark, yeah. There was a big concert there, and we were playing together with Herman Brood. And I was very, very much enthusiastic about what he did. I really liked him, and I came to know him for a time. And yeah, that was my first time in Amsterdam.
Yes. Yeah, you're still making music, huh? I see sometimes the YouTube films and CDs.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
I have done some music with my wife, Gita Ben David, who is also working with sound. She's a sound healer and been that for 30 years. Very, very good healer. And we do some music together also. So in that way, I write songs that we perform. Yeah.
Yes, and your films. Huh? I've seen also. I love The Gate of Light.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So I feel it in my heart and my soul, and then you are singing, and the vibration in the cave. It's so beautiful. Huh?
That was a very special.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely was.
Yeah.
I must say, Lars, I was a bit nervous preparing this interview since there is such an overwhelming amount of knowledge and wisdom that you have gathered in your lifetime. And I hope we can make a nice summary of that wisdom in this talk today.
Yeah.
So I would like to focus on the time spirit also of the now, and ask you how we can use that old and sacred knowledge in these times of transformation and artificial surroundings also. And for me, the key question is where to seek for God and where to find God, and maybe most of all, who is God? And I heard you speak about God as the highest form of love, and that will never stop evolving and growing. I find that so beautiful. Me as a person, I didn't grow up with the discipline of religion, and I'm not connected to any institute of religion. But I do need belief and faith and hope and love. And a long time I searched for God outside of myself and in the outside world, and I could never find him there. And I always came to the conclusion that it was not the real thing. And now I find more and more God inside of me. And the worse the situation gets, the more I find God inside of me. So I think I see and I feel God in me and also in other people when I see them do the right thing or do good. And for me, it's all and nothing at the same time. And I wonder, is that a description of God that makes sense to you?
Of course. I mean, the funny thing is that most of us are raised in a Christian society and being confirmated and baptized in the church and so forth. But we tend to forget that even Jesus, or Yeshua, which is his real name, he tells us in the New Testament in the Gospel of Luke that the kingdom of heaven is within. It's within you. And this is a very, very important message we get there, because that means that we have to, kingdom of heaven is not a place, it's a state of being, and it's a possibility within us. And God is pure consciousness, God consciousness. And we were told when we were in the Old Testament, we can read that God made man in his image. Yeah, we are born in God's image, and that image is actually that God consciousness that we carry within. So we need to accept that and to manifest it, and we can manifest it in everything we do, not only what we say, because words are very key. You know, anybody can say anything. I can sit here and say love, peace, but if I go out afterwards and hit somebody, that's not very loving or peaceful. So, you know, a lot of people are saying a whole lot of things, but they don't live up to it.
Yes.
So what it really it is, by the fruits of our doing, we can see who we are. So that is one thing that I think is, I don't care if people are atheists or what they are or what they aren't. How are they acting? What are they doing? And a lot of atheists is actually very, very nice people and doing a lot of good things. So it has nothing to do with it. They are actually, without knowing it, manifesting the God spirit around them. Yeah. And on the other hand, I know a lot of people who are claiming that they are Christians and they are God fearing and they are this and that, but they don't live up to it. So you see, it's very much, for me, it's very much about you are what you do. Everything you do will reflect what you are inside or how you perceive the world. Yes, so that is very important for me. And also to try to tell people in doing practice, spiritual practice, that you can actually practice in the supermarket. When you go in the supermarket, you can practice everywhere. You don't have to sit in a lotus position in a meditation room, or you can do that, no problem, but you can do it everywhere. When we talk to each other, like we do now, you can practice. You can practice all the time. You can actually turn your whole life into a prayer, a living prayer, by what you are doing. So that is where I've come to now. That is very much to keep it simple. So, and also in my work, hopefully, so everybody can understand it. You know, knowledge like this, spiritual wisdom and knowledge is not for only a certain few. It should be for everybody. So that's another thing. I think it's important.
That's beautiful. Can you explain the difference between Yeshua, or rather Jesus, and the Christ or the Christ consciousness? I think they are pretty much mixed up many times and keep us from truly understanding the higher consciousness that Jesus was guided by.
First of all, Jesus is the Greek name for Yeshua. And in many ways, Jesus is an identity that is made up by the church. The real person is Yeshua. And Yeshua has nothing to do with the Greek church, nothing at all, the Roman church. He was a Jew, and he was very much living on the Jewish tradition. There was also other things. And Christ, Christos, is the Greek version of Messiah. And Christos means the anointed one. Messiah means the anointed one. You see? So Yeshua, Messiah, that is his real name, what is said. And Messiah and Christ has now become two different things. You know, Christ consciousness is another word for our higher self. But Messiah is also not only a spiritual being. Messiah is also somebody who can make a difference in the world, who can change all the errors into rights, who will go out and he can go into politics, he can go into anything, or she can. But Messiah is to acknowledge that you and I and everybody else is here on earth to make a difference. Not only because it's, a lot of people, they say, they have misunderstood what they say in the East, that life is an illusion and, all these things. It might be so, but still, we are here in that illusion. Yeah. And if somebody kicks you in your ass, it will hurt, So even if people say it's an illusion, it hurts. Oh.
Yes.
So we must also accept that we cannot live a life without hurting each other. We are becoming married, and one part, the other one wants to leave the other. They want to separate, and it creates pain, of course. So it doesn't matter what we do. We are destined for pain. People, they hurt us, we hurt other people. Not because we want to, but we cannot live without. Everything we do creates something that somewhere hurts some other people without us knowing. So what can we do when, for example, when people talk about, you should just forgive other people. But what is forgiveness? True forgiveness to me is not only to say, I forgive the wrong you have done to me. No. I transform my reaction to the wrong you did.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that is happening inside that person. It's something that's happening inside me. I give up. No, I have no grudge against that man or woman anymore because it doesn't exist here. And in that moment, I have forgiven everybody. So, and the real forgiveness take it even further. It says, I will start a good rumor about this man. Instead of telling other people that he had cheated me, I now tell them he's a very good singer because he has a lovely voice and he sings so good. That is his quality, and not if we are concentrating on everybody else's errors. If I said, "Oh, she's no good," she have done a lot of wrong. You keep that person in that sphere. It's become like a prison, not only for that person, but also for me.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you can let all that go, and you say, I know that this was an error, but please, you have to evolve. Now I think she made a mistake. I have made a lot of mistakes. So come on. She's very good at doing this, and that is what I will concentrate on, not her errors, but all her qualities. And in that moment, you set yourself and the other person totally free.
Mm-hmm.
If you could learn that, everything would change, and there would be no crime, there would be no nothing. People would start to think, there's something here that really works, because you can feel the energy of true forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness is not just a word that you say, oh, I forgive him, without knowing what does that mean. We think that somebody has done a crime against to change. Yeah, you cannot change that person, but you can change your own perception of the crime. You see?
Mm-hmm. Did you have to learn the hard way yourself?
I think we all learn the hard way also. I mean,
Yes.
that's why we are here,
Uh-huh.
And every time we miss to understand what this was trying to tell us, we will go through it again and again and again
Yes.
until we learn it and the hard way. So that is how it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
You once said that Jesus was the reincarnated teacher of righteousness who was expected for 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
By whom was he expected? I didn't understand that part.
By a group of people called the Essenes. You see, in Israel at that time, there was the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. And the Sadducees were the priesthood together with some of the Pharisees in Jerusalem. The Essenes, they have broken out of all this because they thought that they were corrupted. The priest got corrupted and the temple was corrupt. So they went out in the desert and settled in different places. And when that was 200 years or something before Yeshua, they had they expected their teacher of righteousness, the Messiah, to come. And they had many teachers of righteousness. Every now and again, there was a teacher of righteousness who were their leader. And so it was like a Dalai Lama who was reincarnated again and again and again. So when the signs in the sky were right, the three elders went from the Dead Sea, which is east of Bethlehem. It's only 30 kilometers from Bethlehem. And they went to find their new teacher. And like you find a new Lama today, even today, they read the signs, they go and see, is that the right, is this him? And they found out, yes, it is. And you can read in the New Testament that they brought him into Jerusalem in the temple. Outside the temple hall, there was two Essenes, Simon and Hannah, very old, wise. And both of them, they have been promised that they wouldn't die before they have seen the Messiah. And when they brought Jesus or Yeshua to those people, they said, now we can die, now we can leave because he is here. So that was the confirmation that they have found the right one.
Yes.
So the Essenes they actually started already back 500 years before Yeshua was born by the prophet Elijah. And he established a school of prophets on the Mount Carmel. And from there, the Essenes evolved, and they were everywhere. In all cities and towns, they were there. And ordinary people always went to them if they needed healing. They were very, very good, very skilled healers. So they went there, and that was where Jesus was raised and educated.
Wow. Was it also the language, the Aramaic, what they were talking at the time?
That was also a very special thing when I discovered it in 1988. It was an American doctor called Heidi, and she had written a very, very interesting books about that also had something with the Essenes in them. And that was why I bought the book. And in that book, she introduced the secrets of the Aramaic language, which I, at that time, had never heard about. The language of Jesus and the Essenes. And I was so, it opened my heart totally. So from that moment on, I have studied it every day until now. Wow. For many, many years. And without an understanding of the psychology behind that language, you cannot understand what Jesus is really talking about. So that have been a tremendous tool for me in my work, in everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, but when you're during a workshop, a lecture, we are all together singing it or chanting it, and it's you can feel it in your heart so deeply. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, and and how do you see this time? What now is happening? Is there a huge change? A lot of people who were in the church are now more, becoming, otherwise spirituality. Yeah, they are working with. And how do you see this time? What now is happening?
It's our times are always changing. Always, they have always been changing, and I think human beings have always, in any time, been in the middle of a huge change, and that is actually the reason for a lot of the sickness and the pain and suffering that there is in the world, is that we have a very hard time to accept that everything is changing. And if we cannot go with that change, if we cannot I mean, dance with that chaos. It creates pain and suffering. So that is very much part of us also, of course. Now we all know about the COVID-19 and so, but the thing is, what is it that we are in the middle of? There's someone somewhere that wants to teach us something, and this is not created out of just by coincidence. There is a deeper meaning behind everything, as I see it. So we must wait and see what is going to happen, and just try to follow our hearts and go with it and do what we think, each one of us think that we must do. And that's the only thing I can say about it, because as you know, there's so many voices out there in the social media, and so much splitting between people, and there's so much frustration and anger, and yeah, so we won't add to that, but I think it is about trying to keep a clear mind and a true heart, and see what is there, and take all the noise away, and just dig into and cut it open and free, and see what is it, and not try to be too emotional about it, to let the emotion go, and try to use your real, try to see it, what is behind, how can I go by this, and then make a decision of what direction you should take in this. It's so hard, it's so easy to go and point fingers at, and this, oh, this thing, and see this and see that. You must do like and see what is in here. Why is I'm reacting as I am? And maybe find out that we find a way to balance things, so we don't create more suffering that there is already.
I think that is also pretty difficult, because so many people are afraid in this time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Agent in this, it's really not good with fear.
No. Do you think that the era we are at now, this period of transition to maybe a higher spiritual level,
every moment is an opportunity to make a new choice. So it's actually all up to all of us, each one of us, to find out what choice to make.
Yeah.
And before we make a choice, we need to know about things, not just what I think or feel, but we really want to know.
Yes.
It's not, too many things today is done by emotion. Oh,
yes,
I'm scared, I have to run, or I must do this. Oh, shoot that man because he's dangerous. Whatever. We should not go out there. We should really turn it around and go in and find the peace there. Find why am I scared? Why do I fear this and that? And it is because we are not connected to the God consciousness within us. There was nothing to be scared of. If we knew who we were, where we come from, what we are doing here, and where we are going, we would not. There would be no reason for us to be frightened. Then we would be able to just rest in ourselves and stand in the middle of chaos and look around and say, okay, I will do this, and take a very, very good and secure choice. But if you are in panic, you cannot make any choice. You cannot make it. And there's too much panic right now.
Was this period predicted in the old prophecies of, for example, Christianity?
There are so many predictions, so many prophecies, and you could always find a prophecy that you could refer to and say, yes, that's it, that's it. But actually, you don't know. But I think there is, yes, actually.
Is there anything that, for example, people can study to understand these times that are happening now, these events?
All the all books that try to tell people who they really are.
Mm.
They are not just a physical body or psyche, but we are first and all spirit that have come down in a body. And if we knew much more about the process of leaving when we are going to die, because that's the only thing that we actually are sure of. You know, when we come into this life, we don't know if we get married, if we are going to be a success or anything. The only thing we know is that one day we have to leave. And that's the one thing we don't talk about. So I have been working at one point a lot on hospices, dying people. And from that, I know that there's very few people who knows about what that process is. And that creates so many problems when a person is lying there and actually trying to leave this world in a peaceful way. By the fear of those who are there, it can be very, very hard for that person to
Yes.
do that. So that is one thing. The first thing I would say, if we knew about that, this is a very, very important initiation in life, and there's nothing to fear. The one thing we should fear is when we are unconscious about it. We should fear the fear itself, because there's nothing to fear. And Bosir, he was also working with people who have died almost on a daily basis. There were people who phoned and said, "Yeah, my husband died a few days ago. Can you help him do this and help do that?" And he did that every now and again. He helped people going from this life to the next. So
Mm-hmm. I work in the funeral business myself. I work with the bodies of the dead people and help the people that are left behind. And I also worked in a hospice myself, and I watched people in their dying process. And what I learned from that is I don't have to teach them anything. I don't have to help them with anything. I learned that I can learn from them by just observing and feeling what is happening on the other side, and that they are leaving in total peace at the end, at least. So they are very very nice teachers to us, I think.
yeah, exactly.
Yes. Would you like to tell us about the Merkaba state, the transcendent state of awareness in which you can travel between time and space? What you said in your lovely movie. You spoke about Jesus' 40 days in the desert as his final initiation, where he faced his own demons. Could you tell a little bit about what happened there?
When you know, in the New Testament, you can read that Jesus, after he was baptized by John, he went into the desert, in the wilderness, for 40 days. And wilderness or desert doesn't mean desert. It means in Aramaic to put yourself in an unprotected state. You know, if you go out in the desert, you cannot hide anywhere. You are unprotected. You cannot hide behind a tree because there's no trees in the desert. There's no bushes. There's only sand. So that is what it means to go out there and be totally unprotected. And you see, when you are not hiding, when you are not able to hide, then God can find you. If you hide, God cannot find you. That's the poesy of it. So you expose yourself to God. That is the metaphor, of course. So what is happening is that before he can, this is metaphorical, before that God consciousness within us can be opened up, all that is between you and that God consciousness must go or be transformed. And that is all our shadow. So that is why we can read that all the wild animals of the desert came to Jesus and faced him. And that was his own demon. And the minute he saw them and he recognized them, he could let them go. He said, okay, you represent this, you represent that, you represent. Now I see. Now I can know what it is I should take care of in the future. not to allow these beasts to come around again and to go in between me and what I'm really looking for. And then in the end, Satan comes. And Satan is, of course, his own ego. The ego that says, why are you sitting here and wasting your time? Why? You could be the master of the world. Let's go to Jerusalem and declare that you are the king of the Jews and everything. No problem. And of course, Jesus is also looking through that, his own ego, and he let it go and it's transformed. So that is what they are telling there. A process, the last initiation of cleansing that all of us must go through before we can enter the kingdom of heaven. Yes. So that is it, really. What's that all about? And the Merkabah is more, you could say, I mean, this is an old insights and knowledge long before Jeshua. It's an Old Testament thing. You can read about it in the book of Ezekiel and the book of Elijah. It is when you can travel wherever you want. The physical body is staying right where you are now. But when you connect to your inner faculties, you can go wherever you want, even before creation, before time and space, you know? And there is a reminiscence of it in somewhere in the Old Testament. They say, before everything was created, I was with the Creator. And before the earth was done, before the heaven was done, before the skies and everything, I was there. Who was there?
Yeah.
Wisdom. And wisdom here is that God consciousness that we are talking about, that we are carrying. So actually, it was you, me, and everybody else who was there before everything was created. A part of this knowledge we are carrying in here. It's a knowledge about creation. And in that knowledge of how things are created, we can be co-creators in a very, very, now we are also co-creators, but in the wrong way, because everything we do, everything we send out, creates some error somewhere. You know? The minute we understand that this is what we are doing, we are projecting all the time. You know? We ourselves are projections of God, what we call God. And we could project, but we need to know how to project positively and to create something that is worthwhile creating. The seer, he said often to me, one of the problems why it is so hard to be on earth right now is that there are so many thought forms, very dark thought forms created by fear, by hate, by, you know, all these emotions. And if we could clear up all this mess, we could start to make very much easier for us to be here. That is why sometimes the energies are so low and so slow and so heavy, because all those thought forms that everybody is creating are just creating dark matter, you could say.
Yes, yes.
So the moment that one person comes to his or her senses and start cleaning up his or her act, that's the best way we can start to clean up the whole thing. Each one of us must do that. And then in the end, it will be, we can travel. You know, we have just gone down to Mars, you know, sent something up there. And it's totally not. Go there like this.
Yes. That is what I also sometimes experience, but it is also hard to explain. And what I also see, and I also do it myself, is that we always point at the outside world, and we have to purify it within ourselves instead of outside of ourselves. And these times are so challenging because we are so much invited to fight the outside world because it's so dark there.
Exactly.
But in a way, we have to do it within ourselves to purify it here, and then the outside world will, change by itself. But it also sounds like a little bit like magic. So it's so difficult to believe that it will happen.
You know, the problem, it's weird because every night we are traveling.
Yeah.
every night. So that's really weird that we cannot accept this. You know, we can send right now. You're sitting in front of your screen. Hans is sitting in front of his screen. I'm sitting in front of mine. We are connected through radio waves and frequencies that cannot be seen, but they are there, you know, in the air, in the ether, and we accept this. And then, yet, we cannot accept that those brains who invented those screens and radios and television sets are not able to send and receive in the same way through the ether. And that's exactly what we are doing. So the moment we understand this, we can leave our bodies whenever we want to and go wherever we want to and get information about what we need to. There's only one thing that we need to understand. We can only do this if we do it because we have good intentions. If there's a good purpose for doing it. This is not some form of tourism, spiritual tourism, that let's go for a trip just because the fun of it. No, we must have a good purpose. We are doing this for the better, the good of everybody. You know? So the seer, he was that was how he was. When people phoned him, people could say, for example, oh, I have so much pain in my stomach. Could you tell me what it is? Yeah, what is your name? Yeah, so and so. Where are you? I'm in Australia. Okay, hang on. And what people could not see, but I could see because I was sitting next to him, he closed his eyes or he was just looking with long eyes out in nothingness, you know. And then he came back and said, oh, yeah, now I see so and so, and I can see that it's this and that. But you must understand the reason why you have this pain is that you are actually starting to have a cancer. And if you have a problem that you need to solve, and then it will go away. I will take care of the cancer, but you must take care of that problem that creates the cancer. Yes? So he went to read what he could in the Book of Life. That is also mentioned in the New Testament. Mm-hmm. And he could read of every soul, there is everything written down. Written down is a metaphor, but all information is there. So that is, he used this ability and those information in order to help that person, not to find out that person's secrets or use it in any bad way. But you see, the reason why it's not allowed yet for most people to go there is because we are not purified enough. Too many people would try to use it in a bad way. They would not know. A lot of people, the first thing they would say, oh, that is very smart. I can earn a lot of money by this.
Yeah.
And that is the main problem of us, that we think that this is the main thing of being here. Being a success means that we need to be a millionaire. It couldn't be more wrong, you know. So we are only here for 15 minutes. Do you really think that 15 minutes should be used for such a useless thing? No, we are here for the better good of the whole. We are here to give what we came here to give, not to take or to gain anything.
Not to be greedy.
No, of course not. And if we understand it, we will not miss anything. Everything will be given to us, what we need. So if we can accept that and be grateful for what we will already have, there will be so much more happiness and joy and wholeness in the world. But, yeah. So there's still some way to go, you know. Yeah. But a lot of people who work with these things and start to understand this, they actually achieve information without knowing it really, that they are connected to the Book of Life. And they get inspiration and things in their work. And the more they understand it, the more connected they will be. You know? So it goes for everybody. if you have a clear consciousness and a clear, I do this because I feel I have to do it to become a better person, so I can do what I was supposed to do, then the help starts to come to you. And if people knew that, such a difference.
Wow.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
Could you maybe tell us something about the holiest place on earth? I heard you call it that it's called cave number 4.
Yeah,
it's not, I think it's not such a nice name for the holiest place on the earth.
No, first of all, that place was originally called the Gate of Hope.
Yes.
In the scriptures, in the Old Testament. And the reason why it has got the name Cave of 4 was because all the caves where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls that the Essenes have made, most of them were found in that cave. And that was of the 11 or 12 caves, this was the only man-made cave. And this is a cave that is very close to the University of the Essenes. So that cave was made for another purpose than just containing the scriptures, because they were in the university. They were placed there because they needed to get rid of to hide them and get away in a hurry. So that was the nearest place, and they knew about it. And that was the place where Yeshua was, and all the other Essenes had that initiation 40 days in the desert. And that was a cave that Helen Schuckman, who did the Course of Miracles, she had a vision in the late 60s about a cave where there was a scroll inside, and she opened the scroll, and in the scroll it said, God is.
Yeah.
She was told that if she opened the scroll to her left, she could learn about the past, and if she opened it up to the right, she would learn about the future. And it was a choice she was given. And she said, I don't want to open any of them, because I want to be in the now, because that's where God is. And that was how she started to I think she was chosen to channel the Course in Miracles. But anyway, when she came there in 1973 and saw that cave from a distance, she recognized it immediately, and she said, this is the holiest place on earth, this cave, because she knew that initiation had been going on there. And she was not supposed to be very emotional, but she actually cried when she saw it. And that was very surprising for her friends, because they have never seen her cry before. So when I came there, first, I was not aware of Helen Schuckman's experience, that was the cave. I knew the vision, but I did not know it was that cave. But when I went into the cave, I knew, because when you are in the cave and looking out, you cannot mistake that cave. And there was a picture of that cave in a book about Helen Schuckman. So I knew, wow, this is the cave she's talking about. I knew that it was a special place, and I wanted to go there and do this. When I went there and we did that filming there, when I did the singing there, I knew about Helen Schuckman there at that time. And yeah, really, I was singing up. I was we were there for 2 hours. I was singing a whole hour, 1 hour, in order just to get rid of my, the photographer was there. And it's very hard to really go, to leave all this when you can hear there's somebody moving around filming.
Yes.
So I needed a lot of time to really forget about that. And suddenly when it happened, he said that a lot of strange things started to happen around him.
Mm-hmm.
The light was playing around, and he thought there was something wrong with his camera. And this guy, he was himself, well, I did not know at the time when we were doing this, he was a Kabbalist himself. He was a Jew, and he was a pupil in a Kabbalistic school. But afterwards, when he said he was so surprised that I, being a non-Jew, knew that song, you know, and that prayer. And everything that happened meant that afterwards he was almost becoming a Messianic Jew or a believer in Jesus, because he said this was amazing. And still to this day, so many years after, he's still talking about it. Every time I talk about it, he's talking about this, and he said he will never forget it, because there was also things happening outside the cave where the instructor or the director of the movie, he was there, and he had a broken arm. He was not able to climb up there. So he thought that there was something. Suddenly 12 doves was coming flying out from the valley and up just right next to the entrance to the cave at the exact moment where the sun was coming in from the other side, and the whole cave was lightened up. On that exact moment where I stopped the prayer, it was like everything was just opened up with light. And the only one who did not know anything, that was me, because I was so absorbed in doing it. So I did not read, I was in a complete other world. I was, you know, but it was so that was the whole thing with me. But you see the film he made of it. In that film, the director, he did not use this material because he thought it was too, he did not know what to make of it.
No, it was too beautiful.
Not how, because it was a movie about the Aramaic language.
Yeah.
And he thought that was a little bit too mystical. But he was totally also, what is this? He was not a real spiritual person. He is, but you know, not, he was.
Yeah.
Was it the first time you were there?
No, I've been there many times. I was there in 1969. When I was young, I was 18 years old. I went there with my band and played for a tour for 3 months. And that was also the beginning of where I found out that I belonged to this place. And then for many years, I went there again in 1978. And then, not before I was married to Gita, then we started to travel there twice a year. For the past 10 years, 12 years, we have been there almost every twice. So I've been there many, many times. But
you also experience it as the holiest place on the earth, that it's really, really special place.
I don't know if that's right, but you know, it's definitely a very, very powerful place.
Yes.
The only thing I can.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. There are a lot of people are now working and meditating on 3D, 5D, and yeah. What is your feeling about that? They are living in the 5D and the vibration, and also the, how do you call it? The new. Sorry.
You mean the fifth dimension?
Yeah, the fifth dimension. Yeah. Also.
Okay. Yeah. We could also ask, what is the fifth dimension? Yeah. What is it? How do you define the fifth dimension? And I don't think that we are able to define it really. It means expanded consciousness. That is what it is. That we not only see the surface, but we can see behind things on a higher level. You know, we can see through things, and we know just by one glance, we know. Yeah. That was something that we worked with when I was working with the seer. Part of his teaching was that he could ask me, for example, we could sit in a restaurant and have dinner, and he could say, "Could you see that lady over there? Could you tell me something about her?" So what he wanted was me to commune with her, connect with her on a deeper level, not to expose her, but try to see what kind of soul is this? Where does this soul come from? What is that soul coming from another star system? Is the first time here? You know, and this was in order to train that kind of dimensional breaking through of all our my own limits, you know. So to see things as they really are, not to see the surface. You know? that is what we do, you know, everywhere we go. What we see is what we think is what is there. We have not no, you know, if some person comes up with a leather jacket and looking very big, it's a rocker, you know, it's a Hells Angel. Yeah, and so yeah, it's dangerous, and I'm very scared. Why? Maybe that person is your teacher. Maybe that's the holiest person you will ever meet. You know, behind. You must go behind. You must see what is really there, not the leather jacket and the chains and the motorcycle and the tattoos and all this. No, see what is really there. Yeah? And that goes for everything. Also, he sometimes said, okay, here's a book. It's an old book. What is its story? Tell me its story. Where has it been? Who have owned it? What kind of person was it? And stuff. So you sit there with a very physical thing and you try to penetrate the dimension. You know, you go to the book of life, you want to know about, So that means that you are trying to sharpen up your sixth sense and your fifth dimensional awareness to see things in a totally new way. And that is what Yeshua is talking about when he says, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be reborn even in this life. And to be reborn in this life means to leave the old life behind, the old perceptions, the way of perceiving. Let that go. Don't judge anything. You have no reason or right to judge anything. But you must see things as they really are. And that is fifth dimensional to me. That is also to know that we are able to leave the body and go wherever we want. And can you prove that to me? Yes, because you're doing it every night when you go to sleep.
Great. I ask a lot of people sometimes the question, if you were God for one day, what would you do? And yeah, it's very difficult. And
no,
yeah,
it's very easy, actually.
Yeah, that's also.
We are all gods. And actually, Yeshua in the Gospel of John, he's saying, remember, it is written, you are all gods, meaning that we are children of God. So if we are all gods, we need to act like ones, you know? We are creative. We want to help where help is needed. We want to provide healing where healing is needed. Where insight, where wisdom. Please, we have so much to do if we were gods. And we are. So we can make a difference wherever we go if we choose to. So we just have to make that choice.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, also the gods over the whole earth, what is happening at the moment, and a lot of people would like to change a lot of things, but then the actions are, how do we mean? It's good, but now it's happening.
Yeah.
And you cannot change. We are learning now a lot from
the only thing you can change is yourself.
Yeah.
We can change ourselves, and by that we change the world a little bit.
Yeah.
And by our example, everybody else can maybe find inspiration in what you do and say, oh, Hansi's doing very well. That have changed his life. He did something that is totally unexpected. He gave away all his books or whatever.
Yeah.
I will do the same because I want to be as happy as him. You know, we can, by our example, we can inspire a lot of people.
And it's the same. What you see is what you get, and what you are, you see. That's also something. I love it.
When you look at Joshua's life and what he did to try to remind people of who they really are, I think we have a very close comparison also to what is happening nowadays when people stand up and try to help people awaken. Do you think that Jesus was a human rights activist in his time?
Of course. He was acting on all levels. You know, he went into the temple and he threw over all the money changers and their tables, you know, because he said, "Don't you? This is not the place to turn this into a den of thieves."
Market.
Yeah, a marketplace. So we must find out how we can, you know, I think today it'll be like, if there's food with poisons, don't support it by buying it. Don't support things that you cannot comply with. And that is the way we can be activists. In a little way, everyone. Don't support anything that you don't think is right.
Yeah. In your book, The Old Manuscript, you speak about the male and the female principle that come together and form the one unity. Would you care to tell a little bit more about that, about the principle, and also in the light of today's events?
You see, in my latest book, a little book that called The God Formula, I have opened up the God principles, because the God principle contains of spirit, masculine and feminine principles, and it is through the masculine and the feminine, the union of the masculine and feminine principles, that everything is created. So when John the Baptist, he says, "I have baptized you with water. After me will somebody come that baptize you with fire and the Holy Spirit." And Jesus is the one who's coming with the fire and the Holy Spirit. And the water is the feminine and the fire is the masculine. And when they go together, become one, they can move mountains. That is something that you can read also in the Bible. So there are so many informations there that is hidden for normal people. Nobody have told them. It is actually standing there. You have a metaphysical and even a physical explanation, a scientific explanation of everything. It's in there, and it's very much about the masculine and the feminine. It's about the yin and the yang, the plus and the minus, you know, and so forth. And it's not only in man and woman, it is masculine and feminine within each one of us. And I think, to me, Jesus and the Magdalene, they represent the first new man and the first new woman. They are representing those two energies. And the purpose of them was to come and tell us this. That is the real error of the church, is they expelled Mary the Magdalene and they wrote her out of the equation. And now we are taking her back, because when Joshua had died and he had left this life, she was actually the one who was appointed to be the leader of the movement. But some of the male disciples didn't want that. And from that moment on, you do not hear anything about her in the New Testament. From that moment and for the next 300 years, it was a character murder of her. They turned her into a prostitute.
Yeah.
You know that I think 4 or 5 years ago, the church have turned that around. They have now said they honor her for what she was, and she was the main disciple of Jesus. The next thing they will find out is that she was also his wife.
Yeah.
And they were the 3 years that were together. She was a teacher for the female disciples, and he from the male disciples. There's no doubt about it. They were so close, and they had this one mission to go and show what it will be, what it takes to be a man and a wife in a marriage. That is what the bridal chamber, the mystery of the bridal chamber, is all about. And Joshua said at one time, he said, and this is from an old Aramaic gospel, "I and my bride are one, exactly as Miriam the Magdalene, whom I have chosen to myself as an example, is one with me." So he's defining between a bride on one hand and Mary Magdalene on the other. what is he talking about? He's talking about the bride in Aramaic. The word for bride, kalta, also means the feminine principle. So he said, the feminine principle within me are one with me. That principle I have found in this woman, and therefore I have chosen that woman to be my partner and my teacher, because she is one with me. I think that's the most beautiful. And it tells it all that they were coming together as a in oneness, because they were each one their teacher and pupil. They have chosen each other because he was his teacher and he was her teacher. So that was it. Yeah.
There are also stories that they had children.
Oh yeah, but it would be very, very. It would be strange if they haven't actually, but that's the main thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that they were married, but we have focused too much on that aspect.
Yeah.
The main aspect was why were they there? What were their mission? Their mission was to go and tell us this and that. But when we had the Dan Brown Da Vinci mystery.
Yes, Da Vinci Code.
Everybody was concentrating. Oh, they were married and they had children. Yeah, and so what? A lot of people have married and have children.
Yeah.
That was not the secret. The secret was what were they doing and what were her part of that teaching. And she played a very, very important part. If you remember, she was the one who anointed him. Yeah. And he was the anointed. He was the Messiah. She really did that very, very important ceremony on him. And in the Jewish scriptures, it tells us that only a person who is equal to a person that's going to be anointed can anoint that person. So that means if she was a prostitute, he must have been a thief. Yeah. He was Yeshua the Nazarene, which means the Jesus, the initiated one. She was Miriam the Magdalene, and the Magdalene was her initiation, meaning the exalted one, the one that was up there, who could see things from up on high. She was the one in the tower. So that's why she's also called the Tower Lady, or the one who is looking after her flock, but the exalted one, because she was up there with him. So they were inseparable. So to me, every time I talk about Yeshua, people are not thinking about it, but to me, I'm also talking about her. I cannot talk about him without talking about her, and vice versa. Every time I talk about her, he's also there.
Yes.
And that's how I've come to see it. And if you put all the scriptures together that mention him and her, there's no doubt about it. It's all there,
Very beautiful. Thank you.
So I think that's the reason why we should go back and start to see the New Testament and the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Philip and all those secret Gospels in a totally new way, and see it in this way, that they were actually together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, very good to see and to talk to you and to listen to you, Lars. Yeah. It's now not good to travel to other countries, I believe, but you are still going to Germany, I saw.
Yeah, I'm going to Munich in 10 days.
Oh yeah.
To do a 4 or 5 day workshop there. So hopefully I can also soon go to Holland and Belgium again.
Yeah.
Very,
That would be lovely.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you must find
I have a very bold question.
Yeah.
Last week, Hans and I had a very beautiful conversation with Ole Damgaard, also from Denmark.
Oh yeah.
And all three of us were touched by the energy in that meeting. And Ole ended with a very special prayer. And I'm almost afraid to ask, but I'm going to do it anyway. Could we end today also with a prayer? Maybe could I ask you to say one for us, please?
To end with a prayer?
Please.
Of course. Just hang on. I have this little latest book, The God Formula.
Yeah.
In that, I have collected all the prayers I used when I worked as a healer. So I will. There's a blessing here that is also turned into a song that you can find out on the internet. It goes like this. May God bless you and your loved ones. May his light shine on you always. Because there's a light that shines forever, hidden deep within our hearts. And every breath you take is sacred. Feel its presence in this now. And there's a song that sounds forever, all the way through space and time. Hear it calling, hear it falling from your heart into mine. May God bless you and your loved ones. May his light shine on you always.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lars.
So,
very lovely conversation.
In Holland and in Belgium later this year, that could be very, very fantastic.
Yeah, that's true. I hope so. We will talk about it.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Lars.
Have a nice day, and I hope to meet again.
Soon, we will.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.